Okay, I hope you see the screen. Okay, let's run our application and start. Okay, first of all, let's recap what is Redux. Redux by itself is a state management library or simply a global store. So that introduced to us such concepts as reducers, actions, and store. And that's what you need to remember about Redux. Okay, first of all, we will need to add dependencies to our project to configure Redux, and let's get started with that. Let's open the terminal and type here. As I know, you know what is npm, and we can straightforwardly download the needed library. We will need to do our Redux configuration here. So, okay, I will type here npm install or npm I shortly. And let's start downloading needed libraries. First one will be React Redux. Let's type it here. Redux. So as you remember, React Redux is needed to connect Redux to our React application. Second one will be Redux by itself. Next one we will need today Redux Sync. Redux Sync. Redux Sync is a middleware for Redux. It allows us to return functions rather than just actions. We will talk about that later. Next one will be Redux DevTools extension. Let's type it here. Redux DevTools extension. So it's Redux DevTools extension is added here just to add our Redux application to DevTools and track that from there. And we also will need that extension to be installed in our application, in our browser. So let's open that and type here Redux DevTools. So you should install that from here. I will show you how to do that later. Just firstly, let's add Axios. It will be needed to handle our fetch requests. Axios is a JavaScript library for making HTTP requests, and we will use that instead of fetch. So I won't run that command here because I already have it installed in my package.json JSON dependencies, but you can run that and it will be installed here in your package.json, of course. So, okay, I won't run that, and let's clear my terminal. Now we can slightly move to store configuration because I already have installed all needed dependencies in my package.json. So let's open store folder. You firstly will see this structure. You can name that folder as you want. For example, it can be Redux, but for now I have it named as a store. So here you see also the structure of our Redux, how we can sort it how we can name as a folders. So you can do the same in your project, or find some another structures, but it's really common to split your actions, reducers, and constants like that. So, and as index.js, we will have here store configuration. So let's open that file and start configuring our store here. As you remember from the previous lecture, we created store variable like that, and assign it to a create store function, which takes some arguments. First one is reducer, and in our case, we have connected to our application Reductive tools. For that, we needed a Reductive tools extension. And in compositive tools here, we pass our Sync middleware, and using apply middleware, we enable Sync in our application. So that's really enough for that. And our next step is to connect our store to our application. And as in previous lecture, we need to wrap in our application in a provider. So we import that provider from React Redux, wrap our whole application in that, and in provider component we pass store as props. So that's really all. So it seems that we have already configured our Redux application, Redux, and connected that to Redux React application, and to test that everything works fine, we can run our application and npm start and see how Reductive tool extension works on practice. And if everything is good configured, we will see in our console Redux part, and here will be our configured store, but it doesn't work for now. Let's just reload. So let's open. So if everything works fine, you will see your state. Anything you will write here will be registered here. For now, I have a user, to do, and counter reducer, and let's discuss what they represent. So let's start with reducers and move to our project. And here you see reducers folders. So they are sorted all reducers we have in our application, and the same we see here in our Redux extension. So let's move to index.js and just sum up what happens here. So we passed a root reducer in our index.js, where we configured our store and created our store here. So what is root reducer? Let's move to index.js, and here you will see combine reducer function, which will combine all our reducers we will have in one. It's like wrapper for all our reducers that we will have in our application. In our case, I have for just example reducers, and I pass that in two ways. If we do that like user and to do, the name of reducer will be user. We like recreate the name of reducer here, but if we pass our reducer directly as a counter reducer, the name of that reducer will be as counter reducer straightforwardly, and default name will be count reducer. But if we do like that, like in the previous example here, count, the name of that reducer will become count. So let's leave it as it is, and yes. What is counter reducer? Let's discuss that. We will start first of all with synchronous reducers, and let's move to counter reducer. It's not refactored for now, and let's do that together. Okay, here you see the main concepts of Redux. We have here declared the initial state where we pass count null. Let's just make it small and see what happens in our application in the same time. So let's just do like that and fold our terminal a little bit. So let's leave our reducer here, and as you see, we have in our store folder constants and actions. So the same we have here. Increment and decrement creators are action creators, and as you remember, action creator is a function that returns an object which has type and payload. But for now, we don't have payload here, but it can be if you pass some data to your store. But for now, we won't need that. So let's move our increment creator and decrement creator to actions folder, and you also see here that we have increment and decrement constants. They are needed to just wrap our strings of actions and don't use them many times. Don't write many times strings. That's to avoid extra errors in our code, and for that we just need we just need constants. So yeah, let's move just first of all action creators to its folder. In actions we can create for example counter just, and let's just paste it here. So as you see, it does not see increment and decrement, so we should move that after import that constants to its file, to that file. So let's create in constants, counter constant, for example, counter constants, and yeah, and paste it here. So for that, we will need to improve that errors because it's not imported here. Let's improve that. Then like that, import that, and we will also need here decrement creator from in our case it's in constants folder. So we will look for counter constants here. So yeah, as you see now, it sees our constants, and let's copy that and paste the same to our action creators folder file. So let's do like that. Okay, now it seems that everything works, but we also have this increment and decrement creators in our components where we should dispatch them to our reducer. So let's improve that error there and try to see how that works together. So now we need to move to counter JS component, and here you will see that we dispatch our action creators to our stores. So for that, we also need to import increment creator and decrement creator from actions folder where we have it declared. So okay, let's import that and talk about what we did here. Increment creator and decrement creator here from actions. Let's move to so now we are 1 second. Let's go out from here and move to store, and after we will need actions, and here will be our counter. Just so now it's import increment creator. So let's wait for, I don't, 1 second. Why doesn't say okay, let's move that because yeah, okay, so now everything should work. So as you see, we refactored our count reducer, and now it contains only its logic. So as you see, as you remember, reducer is a per function which has a state and actions. We pass here initial state, and for now our count is equal to null. So because we display that count and represent it and say that it's null, I want to show you how that works, because if we do like that, it will be uploaded here. So what does that mean? As initial state, and as we don't call any actions, and let's also open our Redux to see what happens here. So, okay. So you see that our count is equal to 10 because I changed that value from null to 10. And now let's see, our action type in our case, if we press on the button increment, we will dispatch our increment creator, which has as a type increment, and when that type matches in our reducer, our store will be modified. So let's do that and see how what happens. If we press on increment button, you will see that our store changed to 11, and increment action was dispatched to our store, and the type of that matched. And that means that in our case, we rewrite it that our count was equal to 10, and the next is value will be 11. And as you also remember, our state in Redux is immutable. That means that we can directly do like that. For example, state count is equal to, for example, new value. Yeah, we can do that. So for that, we need to use spread operator, unfold all values we have in our object, and add new value to that, and that will I will show it here maybe like that. So yes, yeah, and if we press one more, you will see that it changed, and in our case Redux see it like that, count 20. So like but if you press, for example, decrement, and that action creator is being called, that state also will be unfolded with spread operator, and count now will be like that. Count will be equal to 11. And yeah, that's all for that logic. And how we dispatch that action, how we do that. As you remember, in Redux, React Redux, we have two hooks, use dispatch and use selector. Here we display our value of our state with count variable, or otherwise we can do destructurization here and delete it from here. So it will be still the same. It's like just syntax sugar. So as you remember, let's remember what that hooks represent. Use selector is to extract data from the store. It takes a function as an argument that returns a part of state you want. So, and use dispatch here, that hook, it's used to add data to the store. So what we do, we extract the value of our state in count variable, and it will contain our current state. So we can show it here. But if we want to change that, we can call by on-click event dispatch that we want to add some data to our store, and by clicking on, for example, increment button, we call increment creator, which has, as you remember, increment type, and as it matches, the store changes. So okay, that's all for connecting our react to Redux, and yes. So okay, let's see here. You see here a header which contains some navigation, and let's talk about Redux router. You will need React router, and for what we use that. Um, let's firstly import our React router DOM and talk about what it does. Let's type here npm React router DOM, and you can install it if you don't have that extension in your package.json. But what is React Router? I didn't told you about that. React Router is a standard library for routing in React. And for what you need to use that. React Router is mainly used, let's just open, it's here, and you will see router. So I talk about that. React Router is mainly used for developing SPA applications, and is used to define multiple routes in the application. When a user types here in URL types a specific URL in browser, and if this URL path matches any routes inside the router file, the user will be redirected to that particular route. So let's have a quick overview of its main concepts. And we will have here an example of React router version 6, because it has it was updated from 5 version. And let's discuss which new features it has. And yes, we need to move to index.js file. Here you see we have imported from React Router DOM browser router. We need to import that and wrap our application in browser router. But as alias, you can use router. It's like a good practice just to write that, but you can straightforwardly use browser router without renaming it to router. So, but it really makes it easier to write, to be honest. Okay. And we wrapped our whole application to make our all components inside that we will in that, sorry, we just make our components we can, I don't know how to say. It's like we gave access to our components that are in our browser router to its props. So yes, that's for browser router. And the next one is routes and root. So let's move to app.js. Routes. You see here routes and root. I was talking about that. Routes is a new element. It's an upgrade from previous switch component. Maybe you know that, and because we had that in version 5. Switch renders the first child root from that roots, the first one that match the location, that matches path. So the same, absolutely the same as switch does root. So there was no changes, only name. And the root component, you see it here, is one of the most important building blocks in React Router package. It renders the appropriate user interface when current location matches the root path. So you see here path just slash, or if we write here some, for example, user, we will be redirecting to the new component. Okay, let's move to counter for now and talk about that. So as you see, root has two main props, path, which is nothing but the URL path and element here. an element which is the component to be rendered when the current URL matches the path. So as you see, we write here user, and when we press our path matches that path, and that element, that component of user list is being rendered. So that's all, and now let's move to our header component, and see here 3 way of writing links. First one, from HTML, it's an anchor. But it's not really good approach when you use SPA applications and you want to make your application more modern. So let's see what's pros and cons has, for example, anchor. When you type counter, it reloads, the page is being reloaded, and that's not really good for navigating. And for that comes link and now link. And what is difference between them? Link link is an element that lets the user navigate to another page by clicking or typing on it, and it has a props tool where we provide the path to which it should be navigated. And link and nav link are very similar, and the only difference is that nav link knows whether or not it's active. So that's really useful if you want to apply a style to the link which is active. And let's see on practice how that looks like. So when you press counter, you see that it reloads. Let's open our like that, just let's call it. Yeah. Okay, you see here anchor, ordinary anchor. That reloads the page, but when you click on user list or to-do lists, it don't reload. You don't see here reloading like that. It's just user list and to-do lists. It's like they change the place. So that happens because we use now link and link, which are provided by React Router DOM. So and what was the difference between link and now link? I will show you that. As first user list, we have ordinary link, but if we move to to-do list, let's open that, you will see that it will has class active. When we press on to-do list, class active is being added, but if we move from that, it's now don't have that active class. So let's see, it's been added, and if we move, it's delayed. So that's difference between link and now link components. And you also see that here we have user as the active class is not added here. So yes, we can also just do like that and refactor our anchor to link. And let's stay here and type a link to and path will be our just slash. Don't need that here. So now you see that it don't reloads and everything was really good. So next one, it's also really interesting approach of roots. Let's move to app.js. Here you may notice that we have root and path that has an asterisk. As I remember, it's the name of that symbol. So what happens here and why we need that? For example, if we type here some random path, we can just display not found component, and if you are interested, not found component just contains no match for, as you see it here, and path name. Let's just consult that log and see what happens. That log and path name will be here. And so every time you pass some random path of which is not indicated in app.js. And when you pass some random path, it will be always redirected to the component you pass in the element. In case of the path is random. So if we type here some, for example, like that, it will be also redirected to that. So, but if we pass here, for example, user as it was, or just leave it as a slash, and we have already declared that path here in our routes, we will be redirected to appropriate route. So that's all for that. And if you are also interested, you can extract some paths from that with use location hook. That's really useful sometimes. So, okay. And now let's slightly move to our asynchronous tasks. For example, I have it here. For example, let's be user. So let's talk about Redux Sync. Redux is a synchronous library, and you need to use Redux Sync to make an asynchronous actions. For example, request to the server, like that. So Redux Sync solves asynchronous tasks, as you may sum up. And let's talk about middleware. Middleware in React Redux is an intermediate function that is called after the dispatch function is called and before the reducer is called. Or otherwise, middleware is just a function which is between dispatch of an action and reducer. And Redux Sync by itself is a middleware library, which is usually used to make an asynchronous request to Outer API as we have it here. And the word sync may seem vague at first, but to put it in simple terms, sync is just a function returned from another function. So let's see on that example. Let's just do like that and see it better. Let's see on that example of users. As was said, Redux Sync is a middleware that allows you to call as action creators that return a function which takes the store's dispatch method as an argument, which is afterwards used to dispatch the synchronous actions after the API or side effects have been finished. So I hope that makes sense, and let's move to user list and see what happens there. So let's do like that. 1 second. I will just do like that. Okay. Here you see that we dispatch our in-user list component with use effect. We dispatch our sync, and it contains logic. And let's just open action creators to see what happens also here. Not that we'll need reducers. So yeah. When we dispatch our fetch users, we move to our fetch user action sync. So it dispatch our synchronous action creator with type fetch user. So when fetch user matches here, we see that user is an empty array, but we after make some side effect, and as you remember, side effect is a main indicator of import function, and reducer for now and at all are per function, so we can do directly here that stuff. it won't allow us to do that because, as was said, Redux is a synchronous library. So for handling some asynchronous actions, we need to do stuff like that. So here we just dispatch a synchronous action, which is fetch users. And after we make some asynchronous call with Axios library, we can use here a fetch, but it's really a good feature. You should really know that, and that's absolutely the same as fetch. So we want to get here this response, and after the data is reached, we dispatch that to our store directly. So for now, let's see what happens. Let's move to user list, and 1 second, like that, user list. So it's being fetched here. So it's here it's this set timeout to make some delay. And when it's being fetched, we can set our loading status as true. So while it's being fetched from the API server, we just make some loading, and after a response is received and the data is fetched, we display it here in our component. So let's move to user list. Here you see as well user effect hook, and let's talk about that. As you remember, a user effect is a hook and the best place to handle our side effects. So let's compare, and as you also remember, we talked about class components in the previous lecture, and let's compare our user effect in case of you want to use class components, for example, in your pet projects or in your tasks and so on. So user effect is used to create some lifecycle methods in our functional components, because functional components don't have lifecycle methods. So how we can use user effect as lifecycle methods that we can compare to class component lifecycle methods. And first of all, let's remember that user effect takes as arguments. It takes two arguments. First one is callback function, and second one is dependencies. Callback is a function containing the side effects, as was said, and it's executed after the changes were being pushed to the DOM. So user effect executes callback only if the dependencies have changed here, and after it's it renders that. So you should put your side effect logic into the callback function. As you see, it's contains side effects, because side effects are something like API calls to the server, as we have implemented here. And let's discuss that dependency, in which case what happens. So if dependencies are not provided here, like that, a side effect runs after every rendering. But if there is an empty array, is the side effect runs only once after the initial rendering. And if it has here passed props, for example, we pass here users, it's been called only when any dependency and the value of that dependency is being changed. So let's compare now them to class lifecycle methods. First one will be component did mount. In the case we use an empty dependency array in use effect to invoke a side effect once after component mounting, we can do absolutely the same with class component did mount lifecycle method. even if the component re-renders with different name properties, the side effect runs only once after the first render. So next one will be component did update. Each time the side effect uses props or state values, you must indicate the values as dependencies, as was it here, for example, users. Using the dependencies argument of user effect, you can control when to invoke the side effect independently from the rendering cycles of component. Again, that's the essence of user effect hook, and usage it with past dependencies make it similar to component did update. And last one will be component will unmount. It's used to do the cleanup after the component unmounts. Which will have a simple way to perform the equivalent of the component will unmount using the user effect hook. So the only thing that we need to do, yeah, like let's improve that. And the only thing that we need to do to make it similar as component will unmount, let's just remove that here and write some explicit example how that works. So for example, we have here window add event listener. And pass here some, for example, mouse move, or mouse enter, like that. It does not matter. And let's just call here some function. So we have it here, and to make our user effect like component will unmount, we can write here return function, which will do clean up, and write here window add event listener, for example, mouse leave, like that, or mouse enter. Something like that. And yes, that will be the same if we do that in a component will unmount. So that's it. It's very simple. We can use the user effect hook to perform side effects similar to the lifecycle methods that we have in class components, and with the clean and straightforward way and modern way, because class components are a little bit old, and functional components are used for now more widely. So that was all. It was all examples I want to share with you. It was Redux, it was Router, and Redux Sync. So, and a little bit user effect and its lifecycle methods. So, if you have some questions, you can ask me. No, 1 second, I will open our chat. Or if you don't have, we can drop off, I think. So, okay. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, we can finish our lecture for today. Welcome.